I'm saying the name right, Toyoshi Inui, and he lives in Japan, and he built a copy. This is a replica. I had pictures of this earlier, and these are new pictures that just came in today of his ship, the Bad News Bear, and it looks like it has a barrel muffler and one of the Russian spinners that aren't available anymore, and kind of a copy of Paul Walker's original plane, the Impact, the Super Tiger 61, and kind of a copy of his paint job. I think Paul's was red, white, and blue, or red and yellow and orange, or whatever. Nice looking ship though. I kind of like this Christmas stuff in the background. Anyway, nice looking paint job here, and I like the way he stole Paul Walker's name. Bad News, Paul's plane was Bad News, and his is the Bad News Japan. Now it looks like he lets his two children play with the plane. This is the bottom of the plane. You can see how different the paint job is on the bottom than the top. I don't know if I'd be crazy about having having young kids, you know, chew on my plane here like this, but I guess he doesn't mind. Notice they're barefoot. That's a key part here. Keep the kids barefoot. This is a picture of his tutor, kind of a nice looking tutor here. I guess he's got his workmanship and finish down pretty good. There's Toyoshi right there. This really, now there's no kidding around here, don't fool around with this. This is really a picture of Paul Walker. Paul Walker when he was a baby. And you know, I don't know what happened, but he just grew up to be a nice guy. I don't know, Paul, you were a cute baby. Anyway, let's move on. Envelopes are bulging. An unusual picture came in today from Gary Nelson. He's got a Staggerwing Beechcraft by Jack Sheeks, OPS and OS 40 FPS, 50 ounces. He says it flies great. Kind of a neat looking plane. Cool. With everybody building these cool planes, B-17s and all kind of cool stuff, you know, biplanes. By the way, if you haven't caught it off of the last tape, they did announce the Circle Burners will be having a special biplane meet next year. We hope that we can get some interest in biplanes going. A picture of Bruce Perry in his Canadian version of the Prowler. He calls it his dressed Prowler with a windy finish. Kind of neat looking. A picture from Bill Irvin in Las Vegas. Profile ship that he's been flying. It looks like he has the inboard mounted motor here. Wing gear. It looks like an I-beam wing. He didn't send a lot of details with this picture. I like the ground here. This must be a thrill to land on. Cactus or whatever, the scrub brush or whatever they call it out there. Here's a great picture of Steve Busso without a beard and without a cigarette in his mouth. Without heroin in his arm or whatever he's doing here. This is a real nice, one of the nice pictures. I think this is from the Circle Burner field. Kind of a cool plane. Notice the fancy lettering, tidal wave, and the wave is going back, kind of like tsunami. And Steve, of course, is the lucky guy that gets to do all the plans for Pro Stunt Products. We allow him to do them only because he's the best on the planet. No other special reason, but anyway. Steve, you're a cool guy. I don't care what Scott Smith says about you. That is a funny picture. This is me in younger days, and this, of course, is my mama. And you see this pet dinosaur here? I used to take this dinosaur to bed with me. Now, I'm not talking about when I was a kid. I'm talking about when I was 35 years old. I still have this dinosaur. He's so cute. Jurassic Park #1 over here. My mother still thinks I'm crazy for playing with toy airplanes. Maybe she's right. Well, here's a great old picture from 1985 with Big Jim and Mr. Muscles over here. What a nice haircut. Gee, unbelievable. Some old pictures we have of Big Jim here from way back when. These are pictures from '85. And I'll just share these with you and then we'll get into our video today. Big Jim really did like this plane. This was one of his favorite planes, Black Sunday. And I'm sure these, if you've been around my house, you've seen these pictures before. The '85 album has an awful lot of cool pictures in it. And there's the man, Mr. James, Big Jim, the biggest taxi driver of all time. Big beyond belief, tough beyond belief, able to eat cigars in a single bound. Anyway, let's get on to our video for today. We just got back from Edison. We had a heck of a day. If you've seen the tape that precedes this, you know we had a horror story. We wound up, and I'll just finish this real quick while we're looking at Jim's picture. We wound up at the end of the last tape. We ran out of tape, batteries went dead, whatever. And what happened is Billy Suarez flew to combat job. I went out and flew to combat job, and in the middle of a 100-mile-an-hour flight, the lines broke. The combat job went over a tree. We couldn't find it for about 20 minutes. It destroyed the combat job. Really made a mess out of things, and I had to take Banjock to dinner and give him some lines and actually just keep him from killing me. But it was worth it. We had fun. If you haven't seen that video of Edison, you'll see what a fun meet it was. And we want to talk about that right now. That'll be the discussion of the moment here. Yeah, here it is. We got back from Edison. We wiped the plane off, cleaned everything up, took out our notebook. And these are the things that might be of benefit to you someday, maybe benefit to you today. We go to a contest, and in this case we went to Edison, and it was gusty, lumpy, turbulent. There's a lot of ways to describe the air, but what I'm going to try to show is we are flying on a field where here's trees, and you may or may not fly on a field like this. Our flying field is here, and then at the other end maybe there's parked cars or whatever, tents and things over here. So we're flying in this area. What happens is when the wind blows, the wind comes over the trees, and here it starts doing this. It starts making little tornadoes as it goes down, and then as it goes up here, it kind of swirls this way. So as we go into and out of this wind, this is what we'll call circle burner air, gusty, lumpy, turbulent. We're flying not in directional wind, not in wind that's blowing in one direction, but you actually, if you throw a piece of paper on the ground, you'll see it'll go up, it'll go down, it'll go up, it'll go down, it'll go up. Okay, under these conditions, and this would be a real good thing to talk about right now, since you've just seen the planes fly under these conditions from the last tape. Under these conditions, well, we want to have some things that we do instantly before we even go put the plane up. Number one thing that'll help you here is prop diameter. Now let's just say you're flying a plane and you've got an 11-inch prop. Well, 11.5 would probably be better in turbulence. Same prop with a little more diameter. If you're flying a 12, you might want to go to a 12.5. And what you do is take a 13 and cut it down to 12.5. But you'll notice in turbulent conditions, more prop diameter seems to help. More pitch. Now the reason for this is in directional air, in air that's blowing in one direction, what happens when you're flying in a circle, you tend to get wind up here and here. Like on the 8, you'll notice it'll speed up in certain spots here. You're not concerned with wind up in this kind of air, where the air is bumpy and turbulent, bowling balls are going through the circle. You're not concerned with dealing with wind up, so you can allow yourself a little more pitch. Now in our case, what we wound up doing is we wound up starting the day off with an 11.5-inch prop with 4.25 inches of pitch, and at the end of the day, the last prop we had after the last, we had about 6 flights in the morning. We were changing things around. We got there real early. We wound up with a 12.5 by 5 by the end of the day, and that was the prop that won the contest. Now I doubt if this prop would have been able to penetrate the turbulent conditions, but just knowing that under these conditions you want more diameter, more pitch, and those are the conditions we just had at the last contest. So now what we have is in our notebook, we've taken out our little notebook and we've made a list of the things we wound up changing on the ship successfully, and I'll just go through this real quick right now. Now under these conditions, obviously what I just talked about, the prop seems to be a big help. That seems to be like 50% of what's going to help you. Shorter lines. We started off the day on 70 feet, we wound up on 68 feet. I'm sure we could have gone to 67 feet even, had the conditions gotten even worse. Shorter lines, bigger diameter prop will help. We wound up adding a 1/4 ounce of tip weight, just indiscriminately. Now, what happens is when we fly in good air, we go out to Flushing, we get the nice clean air, or well, relatively clean air. We don't need the big prop, we don't need the short lines, and we don't need the tip weight. So what we wind up with a smaller diameter prop, which gives us a nice clean corner. We wind up with long lines, which allows us to carve out some real pretty maneuvers with the tops and bottoms the same size. And we wind up by milking out the tip weight. We can clean up the yaw at a lot of spots in the pattern, especially the top of the hourglass. We go in the other direction. So when we go to the field again, the first thing we're going to have to do is we look around and evaluate the conditions. What are the conditions? If they're good, we can put the little prop on, put the bigger lines, which already have the handle adjusted. I already have my reel. Here's the handle already adjusted. The other reel, lines, handle already adjusted and flown with identical handles. And I'll ultimately wind up with a 70, a 68, and a 67 with the handles already adjusted. So now what happens is I get out to the field and I see these awful conditions come up. I reach in a box, I get the 67-foot lines, which right in the same bag with the 67-foot lines is the extra piece of tip weight. Okay, and at the same time I have my 12.5 by 5 prop. Now I get one plastic bag and I put this equipment in the bag. I mark it Edison setup, windy, gusty, hot. Now I know I have this setup. When I go back to that other contest in the fall, we have one in the fall, if the conditions are windy, gusty, and hot, I reach for this setup. I have this equipment in a plastic bag, sitting in a box, ready to go on the airplane. Now, if I go to the same contest and I have relatively nice air, let's say I go there and I have nice air, or like at the Mass Cup, you get runway air, where the air is just coming down in a straight line. You're not dealing with anything but straight line wind. In straight line wind, you go in the opposite direction. You take some tip weight out, you go smaller diameter, you go less pitch to control the wind-up. So you go in the, now what we'll do, we're not going to get to go to the Massachusetts contest next week because John DeTavio's girlfriend is having a birthday party, and we've committed into going to the party that day, so we can't obviously travel from Massachusetts down to her house. We're going to miss the contest, but we will go out and we'll try to get ourselves, when we do get some good air or some runway air, we'll try to get a bag with the prop that works, the tip weight, the diameter, and a pitch all set up, and maybe even make a little record of the RPM that we used that day. We can kind of get a little note. Now I do this in my notebook. My notebook, by the way, this year, even though we haven't flown that much, is about half full. So it's a good idea to get yourself a little notebook. I don't know how. Let's just abbreviate this. With the little notebook, start recording. What's your setup for certain conditions? And you'll be way ahead of the game when you get to a contest. Now just to backtrack a little bit, let's go back and we'll talk about the green ship. This is the one John is flying right now. The green ship in 88, 89, 90, 91, and 92. The plane has flown 5 seasons. In those 5 seasons, I've developed 3 setups that I call 3 different bags of parts that go on the airplane. And this would be my setup, runway air. This would be, let's call it dead air, good air, and this would be turbulence. Now, 3 distinct setups here. Runway air and dead air, you can always use the long lines. Both of these long lines seem appropriate. In turbulence, short. These are the directions that you go in. It's the direction you want to know about. And when it comes to props, you want to go for low pitch, low diameter. In dead air, good air, you can have either or here. I'll just put an X for either or. But in turbulence, you want diameter and you want pitch. When it comes to tip weight, in runway air, dead air, and good air, you want tip weight minimum. The minimum you need to hold line tension. In turbulence, you want the max. Now the way I figure out the max is I fly the plane if I don't have access to some turbulent air. Go fly in good air, find a point at which the plane is dropping a wingtip, dropping a wingtip, dropping a wingtip, and then you take some tip weight out and now it doesn't drop the wingtip. Well, what I want is the wingtip not dropping plus 1/4 ounce when I go for turbulent air. I want it so it actually drops because there's going to be more speed involved and you're going to be flying a plane faster. Here's another point too, is you want to get some rough idea about lap times. And from a shop series like this, part of the shop series is how to trim the plane and actually watch us go through a season and evolve a plane into hopefully, let's say we're going to have a competitive top 5 fly-off plane out of this deal. But what we're going to try to do in runway air, let's make a number up. We want to fly maybe 5.4, 5.3. Okay, in dead air, calm air, may get away with the same thing, but I'd like to fly a little faster, 5.2. And in this air, 5.0 and below. You cannot fly this real slow stuff in turbulent air. So it just gives you a direction. And you notice what happens as you get diameter and pitch on a plane, the lap speed goes up. As you take out diameter and pitch, the lap speed slows down. So if you know the direction, the general direction to go in, at the end of 2 or 3 seasons, you'll have just a super setup for every condition that you possibly go to. Now, to even evolve that a little more, one of the things I used to do, and I really just ran out of time doing this, when I had the Red Baron. When I had the Red Baron, I tried to make a setup for each contest. In other words, I went to the circle burners and I won the circle burner contest. When I won the circle burner contest, I took the prop off, the tip weight out. I recorded the RPM I was using, and I made a little package, a little trim package for that contest. I made one. Then I'd do the same thing. I'd go down to Middlesex the week before the contest, fly a couple of days, make myself up a trim. What prop, what RPM, what was working at that field. And you find out there's a big variety of things. If you just go to a contest with one prop and one piece of tip weight and one nose weight and one handle and one set of lines, I mean, can you picture Mario Andretti going there and just taking a car off the trailer and driving it? I mean, there's nothing even close to that happens at the top competition level of anything. Everything needs to be fine-tuned to the field, to the time, to the temperature, and all I'm hoping is from this video and seeing how we actually evolve this, even though it may be long and time-consuming, you can pick up information that's going to allow you to go to the field and hopefully maximize whatever the potential that's in that aeroplane at that time. If you go there with a relatively new plane, our yellow plane and the purple plane, relatively new, the green guy, relatively old, we have all these things worked out on the green guy, and we're little by little sneaking up on having them worked out on the purple and yellow guy. But little by little, by the end of next season, we'll have packages for just about everything on that ship, and that plane will be, let's hope it's where the green plane is now, where you can just pick up the handle and fly it. But it takes time. It takes hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of flight to maximize trim. And just one final thought now. We now have 4 engines that we're working with. One has roughly a 200-pound head. This is a stock head. We have a 170 Hemi, a 160 Hemi. We have 4 separate engines here, and a 145 Hemi. Now, having all 4 of these engines, this allows us to extend the trim into a whole nother area. As we go to a contest and we're going to drive 2 or 3 hours, say, to a specific contest, let's just say to the Mass Cup. Well, we know from the past that at the Mass Cup, the conditions were very windy, and we wanted maximum power. So we just went for the maximum screaming Mimi power last year. This is the setup that worked at the Mass Cup. Okay, but now this year, we have a couple other choices. By having the motor a little detuned, and even a little more detuned, and a super detuned motor, by having these 4 motors available, what we have a choice of is when we get to a contest, especially a 2-day contest where we can practice the day before, we can put in the powerful motor, and if the conditions are good, well, we know just by changing a head, and detuning the power a little bit, we know we can get a nicer, smoother, more controlled maneuver speed. You'll notice with a stock motor, you really get some heavy acceleration when the motor hits a dead 2-cycle. With a detuned motor, it's much softer, much more like a traditional stunt ship. So now, at this point in the season, we're working with 4 different engine packages, and we're trying to dial each one into a certain set of conditions. Now, out in Flushing, when the air was perfect, it was good, it was flyable, this seemed to be the ideal. When we went to the circle burner field and the air was dead, we were flying in some dead air. It was just flat dead, beautiful. You could fly through your own wake. We detuned it down to 145, and we were doing some 5.6 lap times and going right through the pattern. When the conditions go all to hell in a handbasket, you probably want to go back to the stock and just ignore the whip up, the wind up, and the speed, and just get through. But we have choices here. So if you have a few motors, you don't want to have 4 the same. Try to make one very powerful, one medium, and one real weak one, and you'll have choices. Now you'll have a way of trimming the plane at the field to the conditions that you're flying under. And even though this sounds really, really involved, I mean, to maybe a beginner level flyer, oh my God, this is so it's not complicated at all. It all makes sense, and what it really takes is just a little bit of common sense and a little bit of understanding about motors. And when you have a little bit of understanding, everything else fits into position. It fits in so easy that you wonder why you never knew it when you were born. Now, in going through today's mail, got a lot of nice pictures. I'd like to share them with you. Obviously, we're in that last month of getting ready for the Nats. Things are starting to get hectic already, especially with being we're working on this crazy house. Alright, to the photos for today. These are from Tom Mann. Tom Mann is in Sterling Heights, Michigan, and just looking at his letter here and reading it over, he calls this the GA Special, Janet's Nightmare. Karen's Nightmare. Anyway, you can see he's got a real nice trim job on it, by the way, and really do like the cardinal rudder. I wish I had more details on the plane. It looks like it has the inboard mounted engine like a oh, what did I call the plane? Gee, I'm lost today. It's a tough day, too much sheetrock work. Like I said, the 4Runner, and I see he's got written Max FP. Nice cardinal rudder, and he said he converted it over to a Rabe rudder, and it worked well. Well, that's been documented on many of the videos, and it's a good idea if you're looking to super trim out a plane. Again, another view of it, and let's see, we got one more picture from Tom. Here's a real nice view of the ship. Now, I really do like this. This is kind of a neat thing, and you know, it just goes to show you, in my opinion anyway, the only thing in the world is not tune pipe killer stunt ships. A lot of these advanced level and you know, other levels other than expert can turn out some pretty original, pretty creative stuff. So if you would like to see your photo on these videos, it's easy. Just send them in. I'm not discriminating against anybody. And I like to see people's new stuff. If we share these paint jobs and share these ideas, hey, I'm sure eventually somebody will catch us. Now, here's a picture from Charlie Perkinson in Chesterfield, Virginia. And what he has here, and he's trying out an experiment, is he has airfoiled one side of the canopy only. Then I'll read right off his letter. The airfoil in the canopy is to offset engine torque and roll up. And he's doing a little experiment here on a profile to see how that works. Now, at one time, and I'd really have to go back a long time into my memory to find it, in one of my old Flying Models columns, I wrote about an F-16 tab that worked similar to that. And it did work. It's just that it didn't blend into the overall design, and I abandoned it. But this is a good idea worth trying. Charlie Perkinson in Virginia. Now this is from Peter Tuna. He's a helicopter pilot, and he sent me a real nice shirt with Highway Patrol, which I hope will keep me from getting a ticket on the way out to the Nats. Anyway, this is from Peter Tuna. He's in California. It's a Tom Dixon Charisma. He didn't say which motor was in it. I hope we have more pictures of this in the future. It's a really nice looking plane. Really nice original starbursts on the tail, on the rudder. One of the other things that may or may not be an option coming up real soon is we may be able to get use of a motorhome for going out to the Nationals, which would be really nice, as we'd be able to actually live out at the field and have little parties in the van, and who knows what. We don't know if that's going to come about yet. We're working on it right now, but stay tuned. Hey, you never know. When Wendy's around, you never know what's going to happen. Now, this set of pictures that I'm going in was sent in by Frank Paskovich. Frank Paskovich is the one that, as far as I know, was the first one that helped me out with the idea of using a light taping compound. And in his letter, he said he noticed that it's been pirated by some of the magazines now, and they're using his idea and not giving him full credit, and he said he was going to assault the person guilty. Anyway, from Frank Paskovich, these are the pictures of the Harrisburg Contest. Now, we missed the Harrisburg Contest. Unfortunately, with the house coming up to deadline, and the woman that's going to move in there not having a place to live, we really put in some long days and nights, and luckily as of today she's living there. Anyway, this is Jose Modesto's plane, the Voodoo Child. It's a pattern master, and it has a Super Tiger 60 power plant. Here's another picture of his, and these are all from the Harrisburg Contest. I don't have a list of the results of who won and who got second and third. The turnout was not high, the weather was not that good, but I really feel bad about missing contests. I missed the one this Sunday too. I missed the one in Massachusetts. But as I said before, this real estate operation that I'm involved in, trying to keep these houses from tumbling down on each other, is really getting to be an overwhelming job. This is Dave Knoll's old plane. I don't know who flew this or who's using it now, but he had let me fly this several times. It's a really good flying plane, a Super Tiger 60 plane. Here's a little picture of the lineup over at, this is from the Harrisburg Contest. Some of the other people that were there, looks like Mike Haravich, Jim Damarell, Henry Forbes. Looks here like they could have had the contest right in Flushing. Looks like the whole Flushing crew was there. Here's Mike Rogers with his little pattern master, which is on the Stunt Forum video quite extensively. Some nice pictures of it. Again, I'm sorry I don't have the results. Probably be published in Pampa anyway. Mike Haravich's profile laser, what we've come to know as the flying van. I don't know who, they didn't write on the back of the picture whose model that is. One of the Harrisburg contestants. And last but not least, Scott Richland. Scott Richland, he has some photos of this on the Edison video. Anyway, thanks to Frank, thanks to everybody for sending in the photos, trying to keep people abreast. Obviously, I can't be everywhere all the time. And again, if anybody wants some photos published, send them to me. Please, send them to me. Send me copies, because with the way things are in my life right now, I could lose my underwear. You never know where I'm going to be or what I'm going to be doing. I've been up till after midnight every night for the past 2 weeks, finishing this house and trying to get ready for the Nationals, and it's just been overwhelming. But we are getting ready, and we're going to start working on seeing if we can get that motorhome, and we will be videotaping the Nationals. One more contest between now and the Nats, the Circle Burner meet, and we plan on having one more fun fly day at Flushing. We will try to get some pictures for you. Now today, one of the things we're going to do as a trim test, it looks like we're going to get a day of flying this weekend. We're going to take a day off from working on the house, a full day in fact. And we want to try taking the slop out of the flap horn. We have a bushing in there. If you've been watching a whole series of videos, you know how I put the bushing in, and I have a removable bushing. And maybe I'll draw this out on a piece of paper here for somebody that missed the first couple of videos. To get everything lined up in neutral, I put a little piece of tubing over the push rod, and right at the flap horn, on the rod at the flap horn that connects the elevator to the flap. Now if you have a profile, obviously a Tudor or a Banshee or something, you can do this assuming you have metal horns. You can use variable bushings here. You can make a double bushing, a triple bushing, and then just slide one piece out so that you have a various amount of slop. The benefit of slop is, what slop actually lets you do in a control system, number one, it lets it fly neutral in a lot of cases a lot better, especially if you have taped hinge lines. Number two, one of the other benefits of having slop is it lets the flaps move a little bit more than the elevators. In this case, we're an 8 to 10 hookup, so this will probably make it an 8.2 or something. I'd have to ask Greenaway about that. But that's the idea, is putting the slop in really does let the flaps move a little bit more, and in a plane that's heavy to begin with, the more flat movement you have up to a point, it's going to get better and better and better. So having a variable bushing is a big a trim feature right now. Now to get at this, the way we're going to do it is we're going to pull a pipe out, and that's a relatively simple thing, and cut a little hatch inside the pipe tunnel, get in, unsolder a little washer, pop it out, pull the bushing off, put the washer back on, solder it, and put the hatch back. So actually from the outside of the plane there'll be no scar, there'll be no cut at all. And this, I've had this on several other pipe planes and it's worked well. And a lot of times I wind up putting the bushing back. After the controls wear a certain amount, you want to put some of the, put the bushing back so it tightens up the controls after they get, like on Tradition, they got too loose after a point. After, maybe 3,000 flights, it just gets too loose. So anyway, that's one of the trim features we have, and we're going to try to take advantage of it now and see how it dials into the airplane flying over the weekend, if we do get to fly. Okay, we just took off the pipe strap, released the clamp, to get in and make that little hatch, and we conveniently left the piece that will be the hatch out of 16th balsa wood cross grain, so we'll just be able to take that piece right out, hopefully, and get right in there with a soldering iron. Now you can see the little hatch. We just cut the little hatch. You can see how relatively quickly we can get in at the controls here. We also have that solder joint to make the flaps and elevators neutral if we wanted to adjust that. It seems like that's pretty well an adjustment. Now we just want to get in there with a soldering iron. Let this heat up for a second. Just want to get in there and loosen that solder joint up. Now if you think you're going to have a problem with the solder dripping into the top block, just put a little piece of tin foil in there. In this case we put a little piece of wire in there. We may have to grind that wire off, I don't know. And of course what's nice now, all the grease burns off the controls. I guess actually if you wanted to really be cute about it too, you could take make a little hatch with a 440 screw and seal it with tape. Okay, that's off. Now one of the things that'll help you if you have to do this alone like I'm doing it right now, block the controls up with a piece of paper towel so that the flaps are fully down. That helps a little bit. Also, if you have to get a Dremel tool in there to grind the wire, put the thinnest bit you have on and run it at a slow speed. You can get the wire right off. Now, I don't know if you can see it here, but we have the bushing eyelet unsoldered. Now you just be careful now, pull the push rod out and take the bushing off. Now in this case, by laying it on the bench here, it's a little bit easier to get in at the bushing. And you can see I've got the solder joint done. The little bushing is out. And I'm ready to glue the hatch back in. The little hatch is still up on the table, ready to glue him back in. Fuel proof it up with a little bit of epoxy paint or whatever. And we'll take it out and test fly it. Now one of the steps, don't forget, take the baking soda and water and the Q-tips and neutralize that whole joint, because the flux will work its way down into the other bushings, and in time you're going to have a problem with the metal rusting and corroding. Get down in there with the Q-tips, clean it up real good. Baking soda and water, common baking soda, is the neutralizing agent for silver solder. Okay, then one of the last steps, get out the chain lube, grease it up real good, clean up the area inside the pipe. Now, one of the things with this, if we go out and fly this and it doesn't have any benefit, well, we can put the bushing right back. Well, maybe 5 years down the road, assuming this plane's going to last 5 years, most of them do, we can, and the controls get too sloppy, more than 1/8 of an inch up and 1/8 of an inch down, what we can do is go in and just put little bushings in everything and bring it all right up to snuff, and there isn't even a cut in the plane. Now, with the tape on the hinges, it gets kind of silly feeling, making noise like this. Okay. Now, assuming we get some weather Saturday, oh, we got to put the little hatch back. Put the little hatch back, and that should be it. Now, just hot stuff in his hatching and fuel proofing it. Actually, what you really should do, and because we're limited in time, I can't do it, what you should do is go out and fly the plane and make sure this is what you want before you glue the hatch back in. But because we're only going to have a limited time this weekend, and then right away is the circle burner contest, I'm going to assume this will make it better, and I'll probably be wrong. Probably be back in here tomorrow putting the bushing in. And when you're working late at night like this, I mean, this is after 2 o'clock in the morning. I just got done with a 14-hour day. Sometimes you make bad decisions. This may be one of them, we'll find out. Alright, I just kind of seal this up with the thick hot stuff, fill in all the gaps. So far there isn't one drop of oil even in the pipe tunnel, so I guess this isn't really worth worrying about. Hit it with a little bit of kicker, not too much, just a little bit of kicker. Seal it up. Now we basically can put the pipe back on here, let this kick off, put the pipe back on, wipe the whole plane off, and it's pretty much ready to fly. Now, just to give you an idea how much slop, we're going to hold the flaps neutral. This is a 1/2 of a fillet because of the ray rudder. We have about an 1/8 inch up and 1/8 inch down before the flaps actually move. And that's about an optimum amount. Now, obviously some people prefer no slop. I think when you have no slop in the controls, it's harder to fly level flight. Again, each plane is different, and we'll try this out. And we'll certainly be reporting on a video. Now, the whole idea of this thing is, if you're going to watch building videos, what good is building a terrific airplane and then not being able to fine-tune it or trim it out? If you can't trim a plane out, what good is it? This is all part of building a plane, being able to trim it out and going through the trim sequences to get the maximum performance. And the last thing, of course, is just to slide the pipe on. Make sure we have the pipe length the same as when we took it off, which in this case was 19 inches. Anything between 18 and 19 usually will work pretty good. Okay, and we got our nice little zip tie tool. Yeah, we're basically already back together. The whole operation took about 45 minutes, and if we put it back with the no slop system, probably take another 45 minutes. So it's about 2:30 in the morning, and I'm about ready to go to bed, because we're going to get up at 5 and run out to hopefully run out to Flushing if we can, or if the weather doesn't look so good, maybe we'll get some flights at GSCB, test this out, and then report back to you how it worked. We're out at Flushing Meadow Park. What's today's date, Jim?
19th.
This is the proud owner of soon-to-be concourse winner Jimmy Barelli.
Oh, yeah.
Able to leap buildings in a single bound, and this is a new plane. Hasn't been flown yet. Obviously one of the nicest planes around. Now let's hear the full story about buffing this out. This could have been ready 2 months ago, but...
Well, we had to get all the pits out.
The pits, okay.
Advice from Wendy.
Advice from Wendy. Oh, it'll never make the front row.
We used the little 380S for the clear coats. And wet sanding, and we saved ourselves a lot of work.
Oh yeah, the 380 is the greatest.
See, the bottom's the same as the top.
Right, we didn't do one of those cheat things by not putting the numbers on the bottom,
No,
right? None of that. That Lampion stuff. Super Tiger 46?
Super Tiger 46. It's basically a Kestrel wing. Kind of a takeoff on a less nearing special with a fuselage look. And kind of a Walt Prey paint job.
Nice canopy, yeah. Walt Prey will love this canopy.
And that's about it. I think it's a little overweight, but we'll make it.
We're all a little overweight. Not all women, just us. All right, well, for all posterity, we're out at Flushing. It's real early in the morning. Everybody's out here trying to get ready for the Nats. And looks like we're going to have a heck of a day. We'll see if we can get some footage. This is usually the official, oh, look at this bullshit artist. The official fun flight. Butch Cassidy and the Sheetrock Kid.
You ought to give it to me. I'll put the AMA number on and make first row.
I agree. Put it right in. Hook my lines right to it. Jimmy, I love flying people's planes on the first flight.
Do you?
With kinky solids and stuff. I handle it's not one of those Suarez handle settings.
How's it balance? How's it balance? Do you balance it?
I don't know. I want Wendy to check it.
Oh, okay. Boy, it looks good. Jimmy.
Just make it nose heavy for the first flight and don't worry about it. Don't get cute.
Beautiful.
The Nats aren't for another 3 weeks. We'll have it trimmed in 3 weeks.
Ooh.
Or else you'll have to give it to me.
Well,
all right, Jim, good luck. Get the lines.
Father's Day. I said, call me Wendy Ordnowski. That's his name. His name is Winifred Ordnowski, and get me a Father's Day gift.
Father's Day gifts. We have one left, Lloyd.
Yeah, 46.
One kit left.
46?
Double the price. Yeah, 46. You got a good 46. What happened with the plane? Unrepairable, obviously, right?
Took a hammer to it.
Took a hammer to it? Yeah. Lloyd had a kite fly into his plane at the Flushing meet, unfortunately. So he'll be building a Cardinal kit real soon. We'll find one with real heavy wood. We're going to get some prop testing done today and if Jose Modesto shows up, we'll even get some flights on video. But what we really want to do is get Jimmy Barelli's first flight on video. Now, one of the reasons for putting these on the set of tapes is I really like to have the first flight of every plane that I can get my hands on. And what it does, it allows me to look back and see how these people trim a plane, a bench trim a plane, whatever, and get some kind of feeling for how I can help them in the future. In Jimmy's case, this is one of the nicest planes of all time, obviously. And, you know, I know a certain way that Jimmy builds, the way he finishes meticulously and everything. And this way, when he needs a little help or advice or consolation or whatever, I'm better able to give it to him by having all this on video. And I guess I just like to have it for my own personal reasons too. I like that. I have Vic's first flight on video. I have my first flight. I have this first. We're going to have this first flight, I hope. Anyway, it's an important thing. It's a moment in time. Freeze time for a minute. Jimmy worked on this for a year, and boy, we all join him in hoping everything works out okay. John's putting some scratches in a wing for him. Make sure it's, I would say make sure it's nose heavy, make sure the handle's big enough, make sure the lines are pull tested, bench run it. Jimmy, did you bench run that yet? Did you ground run it yet? Yeah. Okay, good. All right, we should be ready to go.
Yeah, a lot of good shit, Pico shit, 60
A little bit of a flea market and illegal transactions of money going on here on the table. Oh.
Wait, no sales.
A lot of illegal stuff going on here today. What's he gonna do? Fly this now? Trying to trim this Oriental out too. Put him out, Mike. Let's see what's wrong with it.
Forget about it. We got crap.
These are all Lampion's pictures?
I think so.
Yeah.
Full line, huh? Well, you wait a while.
No, I'm not going to
There'll be a lot
hang
of people here
up. Who uses electric stove?
today.
Lampion Sabre. This is the 35 ship?
Yeah.
Today is Queen's Day, so nobody will be there.
We heard the word that Vic Macaluso crashed his Crusader.
He did?
Yeah, that's what Bobby said.
Oh my God.
Had a problem.
Huh? No. Oh, you want to leave?
No, I mean, I'm going to come.
Oh, no, you can be. Nobody's going to leave.
Sure, take the rest of them out, man. Let's see. Oh, these are pictures he made from color copier. Ah, sneaky Pete here.
I guess Jimmy made him.
Yeah, they make them on a color copier. That's nice. The infamous Bobby Lampione.
That's it.
The most disputed national champion of all time. All right, let's see him fly this thing. Come on. A moment frozen in time, like the birth of a new baby, birth of a new kitten or puppy. The metal flake canopy glistening in the sun. The palm lay electrosec so crooked. The paint so rough.
Hey Bobby, what are we supposed to be looking for here? Huh? What are you looking to trim out of this? He doesn't know what's wrong with it, but he knows something is wrong with it. A very common cure.
In the maneuvers, it's slamming, and I'm not sure what it's...
Alright, we'll take a look at it.
Relatively new plane here being trimmed out. See what we can learn from this. He said it's banging, slamming. Probably needs some slop in the controls. Knowing Bobby likes to break the rules when he builds planes. He likes to go against the grain. He built a plane and left out the wing, in fact. Forgot to put the wing in. Bob, you got to learn to play by the rules here if you want to be successful. If you want to be a national champion that people have respect for, of which there are very few, maybe there's none, who knows. In fact, there's no non-national champions anybody has any respect for anyway. Come on, Bobby. We'll try to get some flights at the Cardinal if we can get Jose Modesto here to do some filming for us. No guarantee. Jose comes out when he feels like it. He's running his pocketbook business now and making probably $2,000 a week. I don't know. He's got these fancy haircuts and everything. I don't know if we can trust him anymore. Would you trust this man? Would you buy a stereo from this man? Would you buy a hamburger from this man? me like this is dropping out of maneuvers. Yeah, it definitely is. Knowing Bobby, the hinge lines probably aren't taped. Dropping out of maneuvers, at least we'll get the hinge lines taped. Motor sounds like it's running. Doesn't look like it has much of a corner either. Oh, no corner at all. Alright, we'll work on this later. Not much point belaboring this. Probably nose heavy. Knowing Lampione likes to trim out nose heavy beyond belief to make up for his low soul level. Mandatory to have the wrong prop on the plane, the prop that whips up the most. You have to get that prop, that 7-pitch prop on there. You probably have that red Boley on there with 7 inches of pitch. Just kidding around, folks, in case Bobby gets bent out of shape. You know, he watches all these videos and then he says I pick on him. Well, Bobby, you're right. You deserve it. But hey, we're out here having fun. That's the main thing. B-17s, Phoenixes, whatever this is, Orientals, Scorientals. Looks like it turns tighter inside than outside. I'll make a little mental note of that. Guaranteed this thing is nose heavy, too much tip weight, lines are too long, probably not using solids either. He's got the deck stacked completely against him. Look at this, no power up top. Oh, gee, almost stops going up the vertical eight. All right, needs more prop. Little mental notes here. You know, trimming out a plane in its first stages, you got to get some real gut feelings right away. What's wrong and what's right. You can get with it. Otherwise, now this is dropping on inside corners, it looks like, and it's soft on outsides. I bet the controls are biased, knowing Bobby. He usually has a few drinks too many, then he goes and lines up the controls. Hits the vodka bottle. Zambuca. Uses a rubber alignment table. Yeah, seriously, this is the kind of gut feelings you have to get from trimming out a plane. You got to get this, and we're going to do the same thing for Barelli's plane. We're going to criticize the hell out of it. Barelli, if you haven't seen the video yet, we're going to jump all over you. That's the name of the game. Okay, Bob, I'm going to copy this right to your heart surgeon. I noticed he brought donuts today. How long are the lines? 60? Well, cut them. See what I mean? See, now here's a typical example. Bobby went and bought a set of lines. He doesn't check anything. Doesn't check. Bobby, forget about it. Cut them so the middle of the plane and the middle of the handle are 59 feet, 60 feet. 59. That's why the thing has no power up top. Plus he's got a Zinger prop. Zinger's usually a weak props. Got a top flight 10.6 will help a whole lot. Any 35 ship, any 35 ship. 60 feet the longest. I've never seen a lot. Well, there's probably a few, but not many. You gotta check this stuff, Bob.
I just took him out of the bag. It says
yeah, I know.
65.
I know.
65 feet 3 inches to be exact.
Yeah, you know.
That's why it's got no finish.
Exactly.
The solids I had were better, but it was too sensitive because they were 59 feet.
Yep.
They're 65 feet.
60 feet, he's on 65-foot lines with a 30, and he can't understand why he has no penetration.
Oh, yeah. 60.
Unbelievable.
I have to cut
There's lessons to be learned every 5 minutes out here at Flushing, and Bobby is happy to share his insubordinate ways with other people.
Exactly.
And keep in mind, this guy is a former national champion.
Without a doubt.
Highly disputed win, but he is a national champion.
The key word here is former.
Former. Former heart attack patient, former heavy smoker, former having an affair with everybody on the planet.
Even if you want to use it today.
Oh, yeah, no.
All right, Jimmy's getting ready to fire up the new guy. This is what we're waiting for.
If I got the shit, I could.
It's new guy time.
You know how I look.
Never a moment of peace here at Flushing. This is one pretty plane, believe me. Really nice. Nicely detailed. Definitely a front row plane. The metal flake canopy. I'll tell you, a complete rip-off of the Artnowski mode or whatever I am. A blatant rip-off of Walt Prey's paint job.
Want me to hold it up again?
Now here's the deal. Usually you get to the field. Let's criticize Barelli now. Get ready, Jim. Debbie, I know you're watching this. You do this in the driveway at home, Jim. You don't tie up our good air. We're all dying to fly. We drive an hour through the city, $10 of tolls, and now we got to watch him set his handle. Now the guy with the world's worst record of this is Mike Rogers. Mike actually sat out at the middle of the circle and made a set of lines when we were waiting to have good air. And if you get behind Suarez on a handle adjustment, you may as well just go to the van and have coffee. Time he adjusts his handle, it's time to, you know, you missed 3 flights. Yeah, they're flying all over the place here. Anyway, we want to get this guy, we want to get this first flight. A moment in time, a moment in history. When Jim Barelli's life hung in the balance. Bottom of the 9th, 2 out. Men on 1st and 2nd and 3rd. 2 strikes, and Bob Lampione the pitcher. Nice pull test.
Hey, Mitch. How you doing? Hello.
Hey, Ron. How you doing, guy?
All right.
What are you doing out today? It's going 5 miles an hour.
I heard 7, so I came out.
Now, little things you can learn. Jimmy has already bench run this. He's already got his lines handle adjusted, lines measured. He's not like this gentleman flying on 90-foot lines. Prepared. You bench run the model a few times, go back, tighten the prop, tighten the glow plug, tighten the motor bolts, clean the filter. Then your first flight, hopefully like this one, will be relatively uneventful.
You don't have to worry about wax.
Now you notice how he's shaking. He's very nervous. Barelli has a case of the nerves. I'm surprised he doesn't have a bottle of Zambuca in his toolbox or something here. Looking to postpone this moment in time as long as possible.
I know you're really excited about all this rubbing.
Anyway, there's always things to learn. Every time you're at the field and somebody's trimming a plane, there's things to learn.
More like commentary over there.
That's right. Wait till Barelli's wife sees this video. Okay, Jimmy, good luck. Feels like the wind's really coming up now. If it gets scary, just let go of the handle. Yeah, Bobby. Did you cut your fingernails, Bob? Look, he's wearing a watch, too. The Cardinal Sin. Nice name. Yeah, oh, that Jeff. Holds the plane with vice grips. Fingernails like an old woman. Come on, Barelli, baby.
Then the dirty rat says John did.
Then he says the Tavio did it. You miss one AA meeting and they think you're a drunk, I'm telling you. Unbelievable. John hasn't had a drink in 3 hours. At least. Jim, you don't have to worry. Next year, electric starters are illegal. You get a lot of respect from these guys. Look, he's waxing his plane while he's starting.
Waxing his fingertips.
Oh, the goddamn fuel.
No, I don't have use this one. This one's freshly charged.
This is how Jimmy saves the money to buy a new car each week. He doesn't buy, he borrows batteries constantly. We call him Jimmy the Glom Barelli. Hey, that's my battery. Put that back. You believe this, ladies and gentlemen? This man is in contention for the Concourse Trophy and he can't get the plane started.
You got it?
We'll give it a shot of Zeppelini. Turn it on. Turn it right on.
You turn it over and I'll hold.
flight of a plane. If you have it on video, you can go home. Even if you don't get another flight the rest of the day, you can get some gut impressions, which is what we did with Bobby's green ship here. Just get some gut impressions. Now in Bobby's case, finding the lines 5.5 feet too long, major mistake. We can correct that right at the field with a set of wire cutters and get on with trimming the plane. Now had he not noticed that and gone ahead, he'd be putting more and more tip weight in, more and more power to the motor, more and more everything, and it would never get trimmed out. It would never be on the correct size lines. Each plane seems to have a set of line lengths that are optimum, and when you go beyond the optimum, if you take a plane that should be on 68 foot and fly it on 70, you wind up with too much nose weight and tip weight. It doesn't turn clean. It gets very sluggish in the maneuvers. It doesn't track well in the overhead 8. It doesn't want to do the top of the hourglass. Shortening the lines is always, now this looks, let's see if we can see if it's up. It looks a little bit up. Yeah, we'll take a look at the video right after he's done flying. Now with this camera that I'm using, we can play the video back right at the field, so do lap times and things, anything we want, right at the field. It's handy. Master painter, master builder, Jim Barelli. Now, an awful lot of people will watch a video and they pick up little things off it. Now, you can pick up little things like, if nothing else, your body English. Now, Jimmy's a lefty. There's certain things he'll do different than people that are righties. There's an awful lot of information on video. You can pick up lap times. You can always get lap times. To some degree, you can get maneuver shapes. We talked about this on one of the previous videos. You can always get general gut impressions. Is the plane turning tighter one way than the other? Are the lines too long? Is it penetrate? Look at a seagull flying into the circle. Almost had an in-flight seagull head removal here. Somebody 2 weeks ago hit a bird and cut his head right off, right at the field, ruined the plane too. I don't remember who it was. One of the people on the back circle. Anyway, once you have the information on video, you can go home and work on it. Now it seems like to me, gut impressions, this motor's running too fast, plane is flying a little too fast. Can't really tell how the turn feels. The plane seemed a little nose heavy. We looked at it on the ground. Yeah, they said thunder showers this afternoon, just what we need. Trimming out new planes with thunder showers around.
Whoa, hot landing, hot landing.
Whoa! What was that all about?
He gave it too much down.
He gave it down?
He gave it down and it flipped off.
Did it scratch it? Yeah, he was dead downwind when it happened too.
Wendy wants me to tape it with his camera, and I wanted to fly for myself, so you have mine and I got his.
Get the picture as big as possible?
Well, no, get it as small as possible. You want to zoom back, because then you won't have room for the maneuver. good enough, you can see that motherfucker from the other side of the highway. Yeah. Oh yeah? All right.
These years I've been in this park, man. I don't mean to seem shady, but I don't know nobody in here.
Right.
So, you know.
But motherfuckers is funny. They funny.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
They funny, been funny with me all their life. I start kicking their ass, then all of a sudden I'm all right.
Oh, okay. Homeboy was supposed to bring me a motor. That's why I brought the plane down and let him know in bullshit.
What motor is this?
Fox 35.
Oh yeah?
I said, no, I'm glad that I didn't put it in my head to be bullshit.
You're on! Go! Now when they take off, I'll play around with the takeoff, zoom in while he's starting the motor. You got to zoom on and on. Then as it comes towards you, back up all the way to the fence, because this you can even take for best angles, you can even go back further. The best place to shoot is almost against the fence and then full back. That way it gives you the full 45-degree maneuver without having to move the camera. Wendy's also flying this dark plane that no one can see. No, this is black and white viewfinder, you can't see.
You can count off the laps if you used to.
Right.
Because I'll forget about it. Say go.
If you get the right angle on the loops, all you got to do is stay in one spot and you frame the entire loop in. As long as you zoom back far enough. I watched Wendy's videos for a year and a half learning his style. So that's where I picked it up from. Nice speed. Like no whip, a very nice controlled speed. There you go.
You catch it in the screen, the place where you want to separate. You know just what it is.
And you also see the trees in the background give you the reference points for the intersection. Right, and holding up the intersection on the first of the vertical 8. Hourglass. Watch the fuel, Wendy. Sounding funny. This is Wendy's trademark. Series of hourglass at the end of the flight. So you always got to stay awake with him. Now the landing, you can zoom it in and get the touchdown, that kind of stuff. Wendy Arnowski, Saturday. Believed is the 16th, 17th of June. Practice flight, tweener, Cardinal. Wendy Arnowski, practice flight, Saturday, June 17th, day before Father's Day. This is the Cardinal tweener, VMAX, running on a 60 pipe. I think Midgley got something to do with them damn pipes. That's my man though. Wendy Arnowski. Bring it back a little bit. Ornowski practice flight.
Alright, thanks to Jose Modesto, we got a couple of flights to go home and look at tonight. Get the old VCR warmed up here. We did get the dry to green crop, the purple and the blue to dry in each of crops. We settled in on the big green one here for today's conditions. We'll try to get one of Jose's flights, and it looks like the storm is coming in here. The air is pretty well gone. We'll get one flight of Jose's. Think about the prop changes we made. Remove the handle, the cable on the handle up one notch, the upside. I'll go home and look at the videos. I think I told Jose to mention which flight I put in a 1/4 ounce more tip weight. We really were hitting some breezes here. As anybody that's been to Flushing knows, you can hit some crazy air here. Now the thing is that we have to evaluate. We had a little setup that was working good at the circle burners for us, and it was absolutely useless here today. The air at the circle burners is so much different than here. This is kind of bowling ball blustery air, and we were flying in absolute dead air at circle burners. So now we have in our little notebook the setup that we used under those conditions and the setup that we used under these conditions. Hopefully, if we need to go back to it, refer back to it at the Nats or someplace else, we won't have to fly all those test flights to figure out what handle, lines, nitro, etc., etc. We had ordered some more fuel from Doug Paffender. We got 24 gallons for the Nats. We sent it up a new way by a truck company, and the truck company lost the fuel. It got sent to Babushka land or somewhere. Still haven't got the fuel back. You leaving, Mike? All right, see you tomorrow, maybe. Catch you later. Anyway, as I've said a million times before, and if you're considering any fuel other than Doug Paffender, think a while before you consider it. He has always been the best and the most reliable, legitimate nitro and oil in the fuel. He cares about his customers. I can't say enough good things about him. Kind of like the pro-stem products of fuel. Anyway, enough said about that. We're using up the 10% that we have, and we want to try some 7 and 5. That's going to be our next test, and we're going to go to circle burners next week. Let's hope next week we get to go to circle burner meet. Go home and evaluate the book. Look at the trim changes we made today and how they affected it. Having a book and a video, once we cool off out here, it's about 95 degrees. We'll have a little bit of input we can think about. When I air this hot, usually you run out of power up top, overhead 8, top of the hourglass. You want to look at that. Make up for that with a little bit extra tip weight, a little more pitch in the prop, a little more nitro.
Good thing Jose ain't colorblind.
Oh yeah, he's not colorblind, all right. This is the loudest plane. This is louder than Paul Walker's pink plane, which we've affectionately named the Toys R Us Special. When you see Jeffrey Giraffe, you'll think of that pink plane. Jeffrey Babushka. Jeffrey Babinski.
Wendy Ornowski, June 17th, Flushing Meadows Park, 1993. Cardinal tweener, flying with a slightly larger handle than previous flights. Ornowski. Where's John D for the launching crew? There we go.
Tell him bring a 3 gallon of fuel down the field. We'll take care of it for him. We're not cheap bastards. Yeah, Bondo, I think you're ready. Hey, you better be good. You're going to put it on the table. Be good.
Ornowski. Wendy Arnowski, practice flight, Flushing Meadows Park.
Yeah, we're back home now. We want to evaluate the day's trim findings. Get out my notebook, get out the videotape. This is my little garden. This is the new house for anybody that's interested. A nice 100-year-old Victorian. Working on it every day, obviously. We're finished over by the two-family house, hopefully for the next week or so. And we found this under the porch. I know you antique lovers will love that. Anyway, not to belabor the point, we're going to go look at video now, make some notes, and get ready for another session, hopefully tomorrow.
Wendy Arnowski, practice flight, Father's Day, June 93.
I would not change. I would not, you know, maybe better off just flying without a spring.
Or flying the way it is. If you want, you can fly that saddle in the tail wheel to make up for the difference.
Jim Barelli's new airplane.
Those little white ones, like
Misty 2.
They hardly fit on it.
That's my plan.
Hobby Lobby skin. Good way. Flat back. The whole thing goes on. The back goes on. The prop stays on. It goes on. Over the front. Trying to get out onto that back. And they're so light, it's ridiculous. This plane's super close. You just got to get set up where the engine is running right, everything is comfortable. Take these up.
Show them how to. Bend the controls all the way to one side.
I have sense.
Father's Day. All right.
Bobby Lampion goes around, he builds a fucking China doll.
Of course he
A
is.
fucking China doll never won a contest.
This is an experimental, kind of my own design.
I know, but
It's a Steve
This is the designer here.
I know.
Steve
And that's the
Bussell
worst
Kestrel
fucking
wing.
in
It's
the
a
world.
small Kestrel.
That's something to get with the
To take off on a less nearing fuselage.
Right.
You ever seen the
Um,
wing?
Hold it.
Even the guy that won the damn 4 times didn't win it.
Okay.
He didn't win one fucking
John, get windy.
airplane. Not one
John,
fucking
get windy.
It's it's got my own flavor. Paint job is kind of a takeoff on one of Walt Frey's designs.
Yes, yes.
Top and bottom the same. Only way to go.
Right.
Super Tiger 46, reworked by Big Jim, of course.
Show me out
The
for
tank is by Big Jim.
Uh-huh.
And so far so good.
Show me the outboard wingtip. The design on the outboard
The
wingtip.
outboard wingtip. Oh, that's my wingtip. It follows right through. You gotta get a picture of that.
Hold it, hold it. Let me get a close up. Are those foam flaps?
Foam flaps.
Okay, got it.
All foam.
Wendy Ornowski, Father's Day, 93, Flushing Meadows Park. Camera work, Jose Modesto. Assisted by Mr. D'Ottavio. Wendy Ornowski is the pilot. Tweener is the planner.
Just want to say a special thanks to Jose Modesto today for helping us shoot some footage we can go home and look at here. We wound up getting one more prop, an 11.5 by 4 1/4. And we now have at least 4 tested and noted RPM and everything organized props. We got a pretty good selection now for a variety of conditions. We're just going to fly out today here. And we're sneaking up on the circle burn meet will be next week. We'll go home and record all our trim changes. Trying to get everything ready for a competitive circle burner meet. Billy Suarez said he's going to show up. The word is out, Billy Werwich might come down. Bobby Hunt always shows up. Should be a real competitive contest, and we'll try to get that one for you on the next tape. In the meantime, we have 3 weekends to work until the Nationals. This is the Sunday before the circle burner meet. Everybody seems to be getting their stuff working. Somebody just stole a car. We're in New York City, of course. We're in Flushing Meadow Park, so all kind of cool things are going on here. Bob Lampione and Joe Ortiz are both painting their new planes today. Hope to get some pictures of that for you. Hope to keep you up to date on how our trim program is coming on the tweener. Little by little, it seems like we're sneaking up on having a pretty good base trim to go to the Nats with. We went down and checked out the motorhome. The motorhome looks like we're going to be able to use it. And we hope it's going to be a good, good all-around Nationals anyway. Hey, this is Father's Day and I have to go home. We're having a little family get-together, so this will be the last flight of the day. We'll kind of pack it in. In fact, we'll probably end this tape with some pictures or some things from the scrapbook. Pick this up on the next tape. We haven't had a lot of time really, like we have in the past, to prepare for the Nationals, but we've tried to do it very methodically and very, in a way that we can pass all the information on to you on these trim tapes. I've said it before, it isn't a whole lot of good to be able to build a beautiful plane and then you don't know how it gets trimmed out. Jim Barelli got about 10 flights on his new plane today and it's trimming out like gangbusters. Jose Modesto had a really good day. He got a prop that he really feels is going to be competitive. Got his handle final tuned in for the Nats. So we really will be looking forward to having a real competitive Nationals. And of course we always have to trip out to Lawrenceburg. That's always a thrill. He's put up over 100 sheets of sheetrock in the last couple of weeks. Hope we'll be finishing up our project soon and get our shop back in order. Now, in the last 2 weeks of trimming this ship out, we really have settled on 2 separate setups. And setup number 1 is our 11.5-inch prop by 4 1/4. This setup, the short lines, I mean, we really have, and I just want to mention this here so you can tell from time to time what we're doing. We have a 12.5-inch prop, by 4 1/4. Long lines. Same handle. We have 2 mirror images of the same handle. Okay, and what we've really come to the conclusion of is out in Flushing, when the air is bad, and this is a 1/4 ounce extra tip weight. Okay, this setup here seemed to work real good at the GSCB. Seemed to work good in good air. Okay, and what we're trying to do is narrow this down now, so when we get to the Nationals we'll really have 2 selections. If the air, I'm assuming, is going to get really bad, we can go to the bigger prop, and the bigger prop seems to haul the longer lines around. They're both solids, of course. The small diameter prop seems to want to have the shorter lines. Now also, and this is a critical point, what I want to do is just make a little diagram here. We're getting near the end of the tape. But this is what we've learned so far about this tweener plane that seems to be significant. I'd like to pass this information on to you. When we're running the smaller diameter prop, we seem to need to have more nose weight. When we have the 11.5 inch prop, we wind up with more nose weight, and with more nose weight we wind out with the lead outs a little bit further forward. So this is one setup, and what I'm trying to show is that we have a setup that works. When we go to the smaller diameter prop, we go small diameter prop, nose weight, and lead outs forward, just to make these all abbreviations. This seems to be one setup that seems to work well for us on this plane at this time. Now when we go to the little bit bigger prop, we go to a little bit bigger diameter prop. It's actually a full inch bigger. It seems like we want to have the lead outs a little bit further back and a little bit less nose weight. Lead outs back. And what we've found is by having these 2 combinations where the lead outs are a little bit further back, the big diameter prop and the nose weight out, we can maintain the feel of the plane under 2 completely different conditions. And this is a significant thing. We learned another significant thing this weekend working with Jose Modesto's plane. I just want to pass this on to you. Let's see if we can get this down. Now this is Jose Modesto had a plane that was very nose heavy. It was balanced at about 15% of the wing. Blah 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 blah. Had a big barrel muffler on it and whatever. Well, what we did is we basically went through a sequence of smaller prop, and when you make it smaller, you almost always want it to be carbon to maintain the rigidity. So we went from a 13-inch prop to a 12.5 Brian Ether to a carbon fiber prop. At the same time, CG back, took out all the nose weight, and a smaller handle. Now, unfortunately, Jose has the tape with all these changes on it because we used his camera so he could go home and look at the changes. But what we did basically here is we probably got the plane to balance back around 20%. That combined with the smaller carbon prop, the CG back, and a smaller handle gave a much better rotation. And I want to describe what I'm trying to describe here. May be difficult for some people to figure out. You have a ship, Nobler, anything, doesn't matter if it's a 35 ship, and what it'll basically do is when you make a turn, it'll just slide through the turn and then turn. It'll slide and then turn. Or some ships will just rotate. They'll just, upon this pivot point, rotate up. Rotate. Okay, and I've come to call that rotation. And it seems like when you want maximum rotation, this is what we wanted with Jose's plane. He wanted, well, what you would call more corner. Small prop. Okay, number 1, CG back. maybe even some tail weight, who knows. Okay, and this combination, the small prop and the CG back, now it's important to understand this, when you get this combination, you must go to a smaller handle spacing. Or what will happen is, you'll take the plane, put the small prop on, put the CG back, and go, oh, I can't fly the plane. Level flight's going to look like this. Well, if you in combination with these three things, now this is the combination, and that's what's difficult for a lot of people to understand, is we're looking for the combination, the small diameter prop, CG back, and a small handle spacing to get the plane to track to where you're comfortable with it. Okay, and it's this combination that worked well on Jose's plane. And after a whole weekend of trim flights and a weekend of being out there in the burning sun, we got some video. Jose got a whole videotape of this. The basic point is to look for this combination when you're looking for more corner. Now, a lot of people have trouble with tracking, that is flying level flight, level inverted flight, level flight between maneuvers. When you want to improve tracking, okay, the things that smaller handle spacing would be the first thing to try, in combination with lead outs back. Yes, again, this is a combination of things. Maybe more nose weight. Or clean lines. Even braideds. If you have a plane that doesn't track properly, it's just won't fly level flight well, and you've got the handle down, you've got the lead outs back a bit, you've got a little more nose weight, one of the last things people usually try is clean the lines. And don't just wipe them once with alcohol, wipe them 8, 10, 15 times till that rag is perfectly clean. Clean lines contribute a whole lot to tracking. What you also find out, again, I don't want to make this so it's overly complicated, is the length of the lines. A lot of times if you shorten the lines even 1 foot, the plane will track better. Important concept, because when a plane is on too long of a line, there's too much of a bow in the line between the plane and the pilot, it just never seems to track right, going upwind, going downwind, the wind is beating on the line. Sometimes just taking, and this is an excellent trick to try, sometimes just taking 1 foot off the lines will give you much improved tracking. And with that in mind, we've trimmed out this tweener to a point where we have 2 usable setups. We're real happy. Extra sets of lines and handles, motors seem to be running well. We have fuel coming this week. We're going to experiment a little bit with 7 and 5% fuel. We've gone through a lot of trim flights, and we'll hopefully be taking off the week before the Nationals and meeting with Big Jim every morning for a little bit of a tune-up session. Try to get some whatever coaching if we can. And we have the circle burner meet coming up this week, so let's hope we'll just see you on the next tape, and pick out whatever you can from these videos, pick up whatever information you can, and pass it around to everybody so we can all enjoy the hobby. See you on the next tape. Now we'll just end these videos with a a set of videos sent in by Tommy Collier. These came in today, and I'll try to read the caption of them. Obviously it looks like an Aries. Kind of a neat paint job, pink and white, very unusual. Now he says Tommy Collier's from Roanoke, North Carolina. Engines a Merco 35, pinstripe and letters, all done by hand. SIG dope finish.